Hello friends and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Deepa Robbins from DeeZinesByD, and today I have another Make the Cards Challenge post for you. So today we're going to be making Valentine's cards, and I didn't want to just go with the typical red theme today, so I'm going to make one card that has a nice red and green and black theme going on, and then I'm also going to make another card that's a little bit different and colored in blue and red. And to make my cards today, I focused on some Simon Says stamp products along with a lot of Copic coloring, which I personally find to be very therapeutic, especially during these cold winter months. So here is the challenge post for this next couple of weeks, and all we want to do is see any type of Valentine's card that you create. Go ahead and link it up to the blog post, and you could be the winner for this week. So I'm using the Simon Says stamp, You Have My Heart stamp set. This is actually a year old. I think it came out last year. I just didn't get my hands on it until now. And so what I'm going to do is get a piece of white cardstock, line it up in my MISTI, and I'll go ahead and stamp out two of those little floral corner borders and one of that floral heart. Now you want to make sure to use an alcohol safe ink here. I'm using Spectrum Noir's Finesse inks. You could use Memento inks, anything that's going to be not going to smudge when you do your alcohol ink coloring. To start out with, I'm going to be using a bunch of reds, RV10, 23, R29, and R50, and I'm just going to focus on all those beautiful little roses here, and I'm not doing anything too complicated. For these cards, I did try to make the colors a bit more vibrant, so you can alter your colors depending on the look that you want. If you want them to be a little lighter, what you do is you just add a little bit of your darkest color and then blend everything out into basically white. But for me, I wanted these to be nice and deep and dark and vibrant colors, so I used a lot of the darkest color, a little bit of the middle, and just a tiny bit of the lightest color to create a little bit of a highlight. And I'm not doing any fancy coloring here. I'm really just blending the colors out. I'm doing a little bit of flicking in the centers of the roses because I have a bit of room where the petals are bigger, but in the areas where the petals are small, all I'm going to do is make sure to put down my darkest color where I think there's going to be the most bit of shadow, and then add the lightest color where I think the light will hit that flower a little more. Now, I am by no means an artist in terms of Copic coloring. I'm very much a novice. So, I mean, it's really not the hardest thing to pick up. I mean, if you practice, practice makes perfect. But really, you kind of just have to go at it. Sometimes you're going to do it and you're going to end up with something that might not look the best. You might not like it too much. And sometimes you do it and you're like, wow, that really worked out. And I find that the flicking motion, and especially with flowers, gives it more of a realistic look. So, I mean, you could just blend out your colors if you wanted to, or you could do that bit of flicking, which creates a bit of texture on your image. Another neat little tip that I have for you, if you're like me, I'm one of those people who I love color. So when I'm coloring it in and I have to leave portions of the color or of the image white, I really can't handle it. As you can see in here, I've colored in the entire images. Some people will leave more of the white on the edges where the highlights are, and this actually looks really nice. It's just my brain can't compute it for some reason. So my little trick, I didn't use it on this card, but I did want to share it with you, is to use the Sakura jelly rolls in white. When you use those white pens, all you have to do is put a little bit of a highlight in the areas that you think it would be on top of your colored image, and that creates your highlight for you without you having to do too much thinking while you're coloring. Now again, for the beautiful green leaves here, I just blended out the colors. I didn't do anything too extravagant, but I do think if I did add a little bit of that white jelly roll pen, it would have looked really, really nice. I mean, it's completely up to you how you want your object or your image or your card to look in the very end. You can add things later on as well. And actually, I think I might go back to this and add those highlights afterwards. Now for this beautiful floral heart here, I'm going to make this one blue and red. And so I've decided to color in all of these beautiful leaves a nice deep blue color. But for this, I chose to make it more of like a royal blue, and I found that this just makes that red kind of pop a little more. If I chose a darker blue, it still would have like a nice effect. It just would look a little different. Now I have to say that I love this stamp set because it has these nice big images here, especially perfect. They're especially perfect for coloring. So now what I'm going to do is work on the background of one of the cards. So this is the card with the blue, and I'm using some Distress Spray Stain and Prize Ribbon, and then I'm also going to be using some chipped sapphire for a little bit of variation of color. And all I did was I cut out a panel. This is just a half of an 8.5 by 11 page. I just made it bigger so that I had more to work with. And I've just got a little shoe box here. This is a shoe box for my kids' shoes, and I just use it to collect all the dirty paint that you're going to find falling all over the edges. I don't like messing up my workspace too much. So, I mean, it's totally up to you. You can maybe find a flat box, anything you like. You could probably just put down some paper. It's completely up to you, whatever works. Now, I didn't want this background to be too blue. I just wanted to add some blue to tie in the color on the wreath. But by doing this, that white is going to help that blue on that wreath stand out. And all I did was just add, as you can see, specks, just droplets from the little nozzle of my spray bottle. I also use some of that Artesia silver ink, and I use that because it's like a nice metallic ink. And I also use some of the blue, like the sky blue in there as well. So it's got a nice metallic sheen as well, a bit in the background as well. Now I'm adding some white acrylic paint. So what I do with that paint is I have to kind of water it down a bit. So that little spray bottle I had just has plain old water in it, and I'm just diluting it and then flicking it all over the front. So I just find that the flicks of white on top of the blue helps create more of that splatter effect, and again gives you that variation in color. You might think that all of these steps are a little bit too much work, but it does make a difference in the depth of your card. So here's the final product, the final panel, and what I'm going to do is kind of just pick a section of it. I don't want to use the entire panel. I've already cut out that folk edge border from the Pink Fresh Studios rectangles die set, and I just measured the inside portion, that rectangle that would fit on the inside that I wanted, and I cut it out at the desired area on that larger piece of cardstock that I did the splattering on. Now I'll go ahead and stamp out my sentiment. Now this is from the same set, and I'm just going to do some heat embossing here. So I just prepped my paper with my anti-static tool. I used some Versamark ink to stamp out the sentiment, and now I'm just going to heat emboss it with Ranger Silver embossing powder. So once that's complete, I'll go ahead and start assembling my card. I cut out a white card base that is A2 sized, and I'm going to just attach this splatter background right up against the card. Once I've done that, I'll attach the folk edge rectangle, and I'll do this with some small foam squares just to create a little bit more dimension. Once I've got that on there nice and well, I'll go ahead and attach the actual floral heart there. And again, I'm using some foam squares to do this. So the heart and the frame are basically on the same level or on the same plane. And then the background is really much in the background, a bit further back. Now I'm using the Pink Fresh Studio Leafy Branch die, and I cut this out with some vellum. It's just plain white vellum, and I like to add these little elements to my card because, especially for Valentine's cards and nice dainty, like look florally cards, I love using this because it just creates, again, another layer of dimension and just a bit more interest. It's not too much that it draws away from the main focus of your card, but it's just enough that it just gives it that nice touch of daintiness. So once I attach those around that floral wreath, I'm now going to use some of the Pink Fresh Studio Sapphire Jewels to add some embellishments just around the wreath and a little bit in the center as well. Of course, I chose these gems because they match perfectly with the Copic colors that I used for the leaves. And then I'm also going to be using some AB Clear nail art gems. So this is the biggest trick that I have, is that I buy these nail art gems off of Amazon, and they're actually not that expensive, and they give you lots of different sizes. And I've bought it maybe like a couple times from different sellers, and they last me a long time. So moving on to the next card, I'm using this Recollections paper pad, and I've took out the piece of paper that's black and white striped, and I thought that just went very well with the red. So I chose that, and then I also cut out, using the Lawn Fawn Be My Valentine border die, this Be My Valentine sentiment out of some Sizzix Opulent Gold Mirror cardstock. So I cut my panel to size, and now what I'm going to do is assemble the card. Now this card is not a normal card shape. I kind of just cut it to whatever size would fit those florals on the top and bottom. So I don't have an exact measurement, but it is a little bit of a different card. It would fit in a card that's probably like the half of a size of a piece of paper. So what would that be? That would be maybe a 4x5 envelope. 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Now for me, I actually alter my own envelopes to fit all of my cards. So that is a video that I will post later on. It does come in handy because I don't have to make my own envelope. I just use the envelopes that I have on hand, and I just change them a little bit so they fit the cards that I need. So I went ahead and attached the sentiment and put those 2 floral pieces on at the top and bottom with some foam squares. And once that's complete, I can't forget the eye on the Valentine, and I tend to keep that in my die until I need it and then poke it out and attach it. Now to finish this card off, again, I'm going to be using some gold nail art gems, and these are really nice because they just have a really nice gold tone and go perfectly with the sentiment color as well. Now I thought those flowers needed just a little bit something more, so I added some diamond stickles just to the base of the flowers to create like a little bit of shine and glittery fun. So once that was done, I did add one more thing, and these are little nail art gems. They're not actual gems, they're just little pieces. They're little metallic pieces, and I think they're actually plastic, but you won't even be able to tell. And they come in these nice little shapes, so I decided to add a couple stars. And those are my 2 Valentine's cards for you today, with a lot of Copic coloring to ease those seasonal woes and a lot of beautiful color. So I hope you guys like my video today. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification bell to be notified of future videos. And furthermore, please don't forget to check out the rest of the designer's inspiration on the Make the Cards Challenge blog. Go ahead, make yourself some Valentine's card and link them up so we can see what you've created. I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.